It's time for Inside the Patch with your Las Vegas Raiders. Here's Gnarley Charley.
Well, we're inside the patch. We're your local Raider fan show, and it's really hard to do a show. Now, Fantasy Fitz, I do not want to bring up the fact that I don't want to make excuses. I don't want to say, oh, Devontae was sick, or the truth is we got killed by the Saints, and it didn't work out. And Waller, last-minute scratch. Fantasy football for the Raiders last week was dead. We are now going to Jacksonville.
The Raiders were one of the top scoring teams in the whole league, and all the fantasy players on the Raiders were just killing it. And then last week, they put up a goose egg, and it just ruined it for everyone involved. And I know Adams was sick all week, and that doesn't help.
Right.
But, man, it was bad.
Well, so, I mean, in the fantasy football world, yeah, it sucked, but it just – my goal is I would like to take the Raider team that played the Kansas City Chiefs and bring them in and play them. I just – it was so devastating. I don't even know what to be mad about. It was all bad. Nothing
but
good.
The good thing about fantasy is you can have a bad week one week, and the next week it's all forgotten because it's a week-to-week thing. So I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, the Raiders will bounce back. Serious. Jacobs, I'm telling you, he's still one of the top running backs. Adams is still Adams. Waller's coming back from injury. I mean, there's a lot of things that'll be positive this week. I'm not worried about the Raiders.
Well, one of the things that I think people were overlooking was the Dennis Allen Saints coach who was fired mid-season in 2013 by the Raiders. And I really think he's never going to say that publicly. But the truth is, his players played for him. I think he probably laid it out there as, I would love to win this game, but I'm with you guys. And they rose to the occasion. Just like the Raiders last year, the last 6 games, they rose to the occasion, played for their coach. And you can't underestimate that because it was a lot bigger deal than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and that happens. It's like any given Sunday. It just wasn't a good day for the Raiders. Oh, well, let's move on.
Hey, so I was going to ask you, we have 17 games, league games this year. So in fantasy football, does that mean when do the playoffs start in fantasy football?
Well, it just depends on your league, but most leagues will you won't play week 18. You won't play week 18.
Okay.
So the playoffs are usually 3 rounds. So the playoffs are going to start week 15. So you'll play 14 games and then the playoffs will start. And that's most leagues.
Right.
Although I'm in a league where we don't even have head-to-head matchups. We just try to accumulate points. And we play to the bitter end. We actually play week 18. But it's rare that a fantasy league will do that.
You know what's crazy is not just fantasy world, but when they used to play just 16 games, I made a parlay bet on the last week of the NFL, and I had 3 out of 4. I was going into a game, and I believe it was Denver and San Diego, and Denver was way favored, and the Chargers didn't have anything to play for, but they beat the Broncos, and it ruined. I think I had a 5-game parlay, ruined it, and it was the last game of the season. When you got a team that doesn't have to play, it changes everything.
That's why most fantasy leagues won't play that week 18. It's off the board. So the championship is in week 17. But that happens, though. You might have a team, you might have players that, they've already clinched and they don't even play.
Right.
So if you see that situation happening, you want to kind of pick up some backups just in case that happens. You might have a guy that is going to have 2 weeks where he just doesn't play because the team's already clinched. You better have an answer for that.
Okay, and the whole league. What's been your weirdest surprise about fantasy this year? I know, Josh Jacobs, the Raiders, he was a shock. Nobody expected that. Have there been some things where you're like, no way? You
have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, and he's he was doing okay. And then he gets traded to the Niners. But for that first week with the Niners, it was horrible because he probably wasn't even acclimated. But then last week, he went off. He scored 40 points.
Right.
So it's just it's a week to week game, and you just never know.
You know what's funny as a Raider fan? I've been a Raider fan for over a long time. So the coach of the Niners, his dad was the Raiders coach. In fact, he was the Raiders coach. Mike Shanahan. Well, then Mike hated the Raiders. Al got rid of him. Whatever. Christian McCaffrey's dad was a Bronco, and Shanahan and him were together, and now they're on the Niners. The sons are on the Niners together, and it just the hate for them continues as a family. And I'm just like, oh my goodness.
As fans, you might hate a team, but as players or the guys involved in NFL coaches, they don't hate any teams because they've been a part of all these other teams. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast.
Well, Al Davis was famous for bringing in someone that probably wasn't good enough, but their veteranness, like, Ronnie Lott played for the Raiders. Eric Dickerson played for the Raiders. He gave him the last 2 years, and I think that's why they didn't care.
Yeah, but times have changed, and there's so much more free agency now, and the players and coaches, they don't have those team allegiance. They just don't. It's just the way it is.
Well, Derek Carr was actually drafted by Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen, as he calls him, DA, gets fired 5th game of 2013. And Derek's has an allegiance to Dennis Allen because, A, he believed in him, drafted him, started him as a rookie. And to see that, you can tell that our fandom is one thing, but you're right. The league is different. It's a business. And it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. What do you got this week? Any Raiders? You going to play any Raiders? We're playing the Jags.
I said you're going to play Jacobs. You're going to play Adams. You're probably going to play Waller. I think he's coming back. I said he was coming back last week or 2 weeks ago, and he hasn't. But I think he's coming back. On the other side, I mean, Lawrence, he could be a starter. He's like the 10th ranked quarterback right now. Maybe Travis Etienne Jr., the running back. He's 13th in the last 4 weeks at least. And they actually traded away the other guys. So they have trust in this Travis Etienne Jr. So he might be somebody you want to look at. Christian Kirk is okay as a receiver. He's 16th in the league. And Evan Ingram, the tight end, might be a start. But I don't know. I wouldn't
bet the farm on it. I would.
Well, I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, they're kind of an up and down team. It's like, man, you think, they finally turned the corner and then they throw up a stinker. So it's like, it's hard to trust those guys.
See, I don't know which Raider team's going to be there. Is it going to be the Raiders that played the Chiefs, or is it going to be the Raiders that played the Saints? It's the two different Raider teams. And it was like the worst Sunday ever. I just wow.
But in the NFL, bounce back is real. If a team has a bad week, 1 week, you see it all the time. That they'll rebound and they'll have a much better game the next week. And the other way is true too. It's like they might have the best game, like against the Chiefs. They had the great game, and then let down. So it's just one of those things that you have to live with.
Okay, real quick, it's week 9 of the NFL. As a fantasy guy, if you've been losing every game, do you just throw everybody up and rebuild, or are you kind of stuck and just hope to get a long shot somewhere?
Well, I'm in a league right now where we're struggling, right? And we have Devontae Adams, and we're about to trade Devontae Adams, which I don't recommend doing this, but we need so much help that we're actually going to get 2 players for 1. So that's one way to build up your team, is giving away a really good player but getting 2 players in return. And I think that's the route we're going to take, because we need help.
Yep. All right. I know this isn't fantasy, but tell me, did you see the Bulldog game against San Diego? Was that great?
That was incredible. In fact, I'm watching the game, and I know Jake Haener, the quarterback for Fresno State, he's probably he might be the best quarterback we've ever seen. And we've seen Derek Carr, David Carr, Trent Dilfer, and the like. But the kid is incredible. But, man, he made 2 interceptions in the end zone. And I was like, oh, you can't overcome that. You just can't overcome 2 for sure scores that go the other way, right? And then it was coming down to the end. I'm like, man, we're going to lose. We're going to lose. And sure enough, that we score late. We get the 2-pointer. The onside kick was incredible. And I'm like, oh, we have a chance. We score in the very next play and game over. It was awesome.
I mean, the onside kick in itself, like I was telling my wife, I go, hey, we just need the onside kick. Yeah, right. But when you get the onside kick, when that happens, it's a game changer, man. The momentum just.
Yeah, it was such a momentum booster. And plus, he kicked it a long way. So they had field position as well. Usually, like, you get that 10 yards and you still have a long way to go. Well, he kicked that onside kick about 25 yards. So they were automatically in great field position. And they scored the very next play.
It was almost like a go route. It's like, we're going to kick it down the field. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that guy's wide open. Nice play. It's amazing. I thought it was great.
Well, I don't know if you know the kickoff rules, but in the NFL, you can't advance until the ball's kicked. So you can't take a running start. But in college, that rule still applies where you can get a running start. So in the NFL, that kick wouldn't have worked because your guys aren't fast enough to get that far because they don't have that running start.
You know, that's the one element of the game. Like, there's like only been one successful one in the NFL this year, or not very many. That maybe that could really add some elements. I mean, because I don't know how they could change it, but would that be great if that becomes maybe you get them, I don't know, 1/4 of the time? That'd be cool.
You should be able to declare, okay, we're kicking an onside kick, so that rule that you can't advance, before the ball's kicked, that should be nullified for onside kick situations. Because I mean, the reason why they do that is because they don't want these guys going down there full speed and killing a kickoff return guy. You know what I'm saying? But if it's an onside kick, it's just what it is.
Well, I would like to see to where it's more than like 1%, where it's like, I don't know, 20%, 50%. Like, maybe there's a shot there. I don't know. But go Fresno State. Congratulations. Anyway, all right. Fantasy Fitz, thank you. A lot of insight, a lot of good. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks, Charlie.
We'll be back with more Inside the Patch on 1430 ESPN, your official home of the Las Vegas Raiders.